The Bible Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth. Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth.
And now, here's our presenter, Gabriel Savant.
Hello, it's good to be with you again. Welcome to our channel where we believe God is in the cleansing business, all right, but He's not in the whitewashing business. There is a difference. Perhaps you agree with us that for many years now, the U.S. has been in spiritual decline, serious spiritual decline, and it's now racing down a morals toboggan slide. It's really mind-boggling that according to a recent survey, almost 50% of Americans say they are no longer sure if there is a God or not. Talk about our changing times, even uncertain times. An atheist can't find God for the same reason a criminal on the run can't find a cop. And you gotta wonder who an atheist talks to when he's all alone. In this special edition at the Bible Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth, with yours truly, we're blessed to be able to present a parable that's both sensational and motivational. When I say motivational, I don't mean in the context of what you're likely to hear at a pep rally, not rah-rah sort of motivational, but more on the side of contemplative motivation, quiet and reflective inspiration. Yet amazingly, it has the power, the dunamis in Greek, of a diesel locomotive, adding spark to one's inner spirit, inner man or inner woman. If an equivalent of a Heisman Trophy were given to poems or modern-day parables, I submit that the one you're about to hear might well be in the running for the top prize. This parable is called The Game of Life. And the one delivering it for us is Jack Davis. In the spirit of transparency, let me say here at the very top that Jack Davis is not affiliated with this ministry, nor with this YouTube channel in any way whatsoever. Now then, I know Jack personally. He's been a familiar voice in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex radio market for many years as a DJ and as an on-air host. In fact, he was a colleague of mine. I worked with Jack Davis at a couple of Dallas radio stations for some 15 years. And as I stated in my book that I wrote a few years ago, I personally consider Jack Davis to be the Casey Kasem in the genre of Southern gospel radio formats. BTW, I'm talking from coast to coast. That segues into several years back, Jack was inducted into a very prestigious Hall of Fame. I'll bring you up to speed about it at the end of Jack's recitation. The decision to air this composition at my channel is because it reinforces certain core principles, biblically based ones, which reflect the overall mantra of my transmissions. Plus, Jack's vignette serves as a conduit to infuse, to inject those who hear it with, I believe, a real awareness that God sits on high and He looks down low. Actually, that's the title of a Southern gospel tune from the Backstack, one of the oldies that I suspect Jack probably played during some of his episodes. Now, I have no concerns that anyone, after they hear this masterpiece, will say, you oversold it, you hyped it up too much. Puff piece, Gabriel. I don't believe so. I'm more than satisfied it's that touching, that stirring to one's soul. You know, it's a paradox how in school you get the lesson before you take the test, but in life, we often get the test before we learn the lesson. Speaking of life, relating the paragon of parables entitled The Game of Life, here now, friends, is Jack Davis.
I'm giving you the ball, son, and naming you the quarterback for your team in the game of life. I am your coach, and I'll give it to you straight. There's only one schedule to play. It lasts all your life, but consists of only one game. It is long, with no timeout and no substitutions. You play the whole game, all your life. You'll have a great backfield. You are calling the signals, but the other three fellows in the backfield with you have great reputations. They are named Faith, Hope, and Charity. You'll work behind a truly powerful line. End to end, it consists of honesty, loyalty, devotion to duty, self-respect, sturdy cleanliness, good behavior, and courage. The goalposts are the gates of heaven. God is the referee and sole official. He makes all the rules, and there is no appeal from them. There are 10 rules. You know them as the 10 Commandments, and you play them strictly in accordance with your own religion. There is also an important ground rule. It is, as ye would that men should do to you, do ye also to them likewise. Here is the ball. Hold on to it. Now, son, get in there, and let's see what you can do with it.
Now that's a keeper. That's a real classic. Thanks to Jack Davis for his well-done, inimitable rendition of The Game of Life, a modern-day parable. Now then, Jack Davis was a DJ on-air host for, best I recall, at least 4 different gospel music stations in the Dallas-Fort Worth radio market over the course of time. On top of that, Jack hosted a weekly, nationally syndicated Southern Gospel radio show back in the day, back when dinosaurs still roamed the earth, it seems now, as several decades have flashed by since then. But it was very popular with lots of Southern Gospel music fans in the U.S. Point of fact, that's when I arrived at my personal assessment that Jack was the Casey Kasem of Southern Gospel radio DJs, as he would drop in factoids about the artist, give you some interesting behind-the-scenes info, do interviews a la Casey Kasem, except Jack was interviewing mostly gospel quartet members or individual music stars, whether the Blackwood Brothers or maybe the Florida Boys, the late Howard and Vestal Goodman, and so on and so forth. Rather than secular pop stars Casey Kasem spotlighted, Jack was every bit as skilled at causing one to pull up a radio as Casey was over the years. Casey very accomplished at what he did as host of his American Top 40 show. Jack well knew, as the rest of we old school radio DJs do, the meaning of living on spins and needles, and maybe sometimes the meaning of pins and needles when new ownership or management takes over a station. I'd be remiss to not mention that Jack Davis also worked for several secular formats during his career. He was no one-trick pony, that's for sure. In 2011, I believe it was, 2011, Jack Davis was inducted into the Texas Gospel Music Hall of Fame. He's in good company there as far as some well-known names in gospel music and Southern gospel sphere. Other inductees into the Texas Gospel Music Hall of Fame include Guy Penrod, Larry and Rudy Gatlin of the Gatlin Brothers. There's Gary McSpadden, radio DJ Bill Mack, Cynthia Clausen, and Glenn Payne, and we could go on and on. In fact, you can see the entire list yourself. Their Hall of Fame website is www.tgmhf.org. All one word, lowercase. T as in Texas, G as in gospel, M as in music, H as in hall, F in fame.org. Again, it's www.tgmhf.org. Check it out. You'll see the whole shooting match, and while there you can see a pic of Jack Davis and read his professional bio, a snapshot of it at any rate. I'll keep you in suspenders a little bit, though. I'll leave you with that promo of it and let their website take over from there to give you the goods. And we thank Jack for his service. He's a proud United States Air Force veteran. If my recollection serves me correctly, I believe Jack served as a military police in the United States Air Force. Something else Jack and I have in common, besides both having worked in Dallas radio, is Wichita, Kansas. I believe Jack, for a period of time, was stationed at McConnell Air Force Base in Wichita. And in the early 1980s, I was a DJ for a highly rated FM station in the Wichita radio market, right there in the heart of middle America, America's breadbasket. An anecdote comes to mind a number of years ago at a restaurant in Big D, having dinner with Jack. The subject of his military days came up, and I asked him if he packed heat, carried a firearm on the base while on duty as an Air Force cop. I believe he told me, if I remember correctly, I believe he told me no. Maybe he carried a baton or a billy club. I don't remember that part. But Jack was always as solid as steel. He could have played linebacker, I suspect. But I bet you one thing. If on patrol Jack said jump, those on the base probably said, "Sir, yes, sir. How far, sir?" Something like that. You know, I wasn't in the military, but I kind of feel like I should get some kind of honorary recognition because I watched so many episodes of MASH back in the day. Well, I mentioned Jack saying jump and they'd say how far. Well, I'd like to make a quick jump to this component to tell you about a specific edition in my YouTube channel archives you might find to be of interest. It's only Bible version endorsed by U.S. President Reagan, in his own words, incidentally. You'll see a pic of the Gipper with his memorable award-winning smile. While there, you'll find a collage, a smorgasbord of Bible topics, subjects, and various Bible issues, many of which no one else touches with a 50-foot pole, I assure you. Remember that truth can afford to be fair. Yes, it can. Now, in the poem, you heard Jack mention the 10 Commandments for living, an integral part of the game of life. Well, one thing about it, Moses was way ahead of his time. He introduced a couple of terrific tablets long before tablets became trendy. Hit subscribe to receive notice of new installments just as soon as they're published. I generally try to produce one new edition per week, God willing, and if the creek don't rise. We welcome your feedback at thebiblestandstall@yahoo.com. That's all one word, lowercase. Thanks for listening and for sharing these programs with people you know. Until next time, this is Gabriel Savant reminding you an apple a day keeps the doctor away, and reading a chapter of the Bible a day keeps the devil away.
B-I-B-L-E, yes, that's the book for me. I stand alone on the word of God, the B-I-B-L-E.
The BIBLE, Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth. Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth.